Browser-specific views are deemed no longer necessary for most desktop browsers. However, the mobile browser is kind of like the Wild West of development for multiple browser types. This is because there are tons and tons of manufacturers of phones, all with their own special browser being used across them, with the exception, of course, the iPhone and the Android, which are pretty much have their own browser that can be defined, but everybody else is kind of potluck, if you will. So trying to develop for any one of those apps or those browsers is pretty difficult, because part of the problem is most web applications, there's an expectation that they must appear to be a native application on the mobile device to get user adoption. So, if it looks like a real website and not intuitive to the phone, then user adoption is generally going to go down, especially if you have to pinch and zoom your way to navigate throughout the website. Well, luckily, in MVC4, there's this concept of display modes. What this is it allows an internal method that acts as a browser sniffer, saying, hey, what kind of browser do you have? Are you an iPhone? Are you a Windows phone? What are you? This allows you to kind of configure different templates to serve up based on the specific browser coming across. So if the display mode is an iPhone, for that matter, you can say use index.iphone.chhtml. If it's a Windows phone, you can say index.windowsphone.chhtml. So that's kind of the idea of these display modes. In MVC4, the display modes are what got added to help determine what type of browser is actually viewing your site. It uses a browser sniffer to get the type of browser that is currently viewing the site. It defines a suffix of a view and to use that if there's a match. Here's an example of some code. In the first instance where iPhone is used, that is what ASP.NET MVC will look for when it's trying to match up a view set to use. For instance, index.iphone.chhtml. So that's the first part. And the second part, where we say context condition equal, and then the lambda expression, and then we get to the index of iPhone and do a string comparison off of that, that is actually looking at the user agent that is automatically coming across that the browser is providing, and we're basically looking within there, seeing if iPhone exists. So essentially, we're just saying, in this big string that you're telling us what you are, Mr. Browser, do you contain iPhone? If you do, then we have this set of views that we want you to use. Otherwise, go on. So in a sense, this is how display modes pretty much works. In my opinion, it's not the strongest offering we could do, but it's definitely one step closer to making our lives a lot easier in terms of pivoting between these different major brains of mobile devices. So yeah, so that's what we have. We're basically taking what the browser is handing us in terms of from the user agent, and then saying, do you have iPhone in there? Or in our case, do you have Windows Phone? Do you have Android? Sky's the limit. You can look for anything you want and then tell it to go use a certain set of views. Now for this demo, we're going to go back into our mobile application that we created earlier, and we're going to wire up some display mode specific devices in our global ASAX. So first, let's go ahead and open up our global ASAX file, and within the application start method, give you spaces, and we're going to type in display mode provider instance. Actually, let me resolve that really quickly so I have my IntelliSense. Okay, so display mode provider dot instance dot modes dot insert 0 new default display mode is what we want. And we're going to do this for the iPhone. We'll close that. Now we're going to put our curly braces in. And go ahead and close that for good measure. Now, within the guts of this, we are going to put in a context condition. And we're going to say the context, named expression, context dot get overridden browser, or excuse me, user agent. I was just reading the IntelliSense there. Dot index of. Go look for the iPhone text. Do a string comparison dot ordinal ignore case. So this says we don't care if it's uppercase, lowercase. If every other character is capitalized, we don't care. And we want to say if that comes back greater than 0, let us know. Okay, got all that. It's not yelling at me. Okay, looks good. Go ahead and save that. So now what we need to do is create an iPhone specific view for our site. So we already have mobile set up, so let's go ahead and copy our index, paste it, and what we want to do is put our suffix in here. Say index.iphone.chhtml. And if you add like Windows Phone, you do the same thing. iPad, you get the idea. So let's go ahead and open it. And we really don't need to do anything other than let's go ahead and take out some of this extra stuff here. We could put actually this is for an iPhone. Let's go ahead and hit save, and let's debug this using the iPhone emulator that we installed earlier. And there we go. So if I use this with a different type of browser, let's exit that, stop. Let's see, what else do I have? I can try to use an iPad here. Although iPad is larger than the screen I'm recording on, so this will be interesting. Oh, it's an iPhone again. Here, let's change this to an iPad. There we go. So even though this is being viewed as a mobile browser, even though it's an iPad, you can see that it is not using the iPhone template. So what we could try to do, since this is an iPad, we could try to tell this to use its own specific device view as well. So I'm going to go File, Exit, Save, or excuse me, stop the debugging. Let's go back into our global ASAX, and we're just going to create a new provider. And you can do this for all sorts of providers. I've never done one for the iPad, but I'm just going to guess that iPad might be in the user agent, so we'll just give this a shot. Go ahead and hit save, and let's go copy our index phone. Say this is for an iPad. Cool. Alright, now let's run this. as an iPad. Oh, came up as phone again. So we know what phone's going to do. And we write the device. We want it to be an iPad. There we go. What a lucky guess. So apparently the user agent is got iPad in it, and for the iPhone is the same thing. And again, our orientation, that's for an iPad, obviously works correctly. We can flip the device back over to an iPhone, and there's it for the iPhone. And just like we did the iPad, we can flip the landscape to that. So the moral of the story is here, if you want specific styles and experience for particular devices like an iPhone, an iPad, what have you, with your MVC site, is totally possible. All you have to do is, in Global AICX, is essentially just tell the browser sniffer, say, hey, if you have an iPhone, I want you to use this set of views that has the suffix of iPhone. If you tell that there's an iPad coming across, go use the views that have the suffix of iPad. Windows Phone, same thing. So this way, if iPhone, iPad, Windows Phone, Android, whatever, offers something that like no other device has, and you want to exploit that for a better user experience, you totally can. You just need to come in and create a new instance of another display mode provider utilizing the user agent string, saying look for an iPhone, look for an iPad, look for a Windows Phone. There's several examples out there, but this is definitely how you do it. You want to use the display mode provider for browser specific views in mobile. And say for instance we didn't have an iPhone, so we say let me copy the home, and because we never did make a mobile version of our index, so we just do index.mobile.chhtml, and let me just get rid of the junk below it. We'll keep the top, and we'll just say this is standard mobile. Okay, so we know the difference there. So say for instance we didn't have our iPhone at all, and it was just normal Joe Schmo browser. Oops, comment that out. And we surf this in an iPhone. So pretend this would be like an Android phone. Just say for instance, since we commented out the iPhone. Oh, I must have done something. Yeah. Well, if you don't like Android phones, that's probably what you think it does anyways. So let's see what I did. That's mobile. Oh, I see what it did. I totally didn't like my view there. Let's try that again. That's what happens when you start deleting things too quickly. There we go. So this is the standard mobile. It automatically defaulted to this because our browser detection said, hey, that is a mobile device. Go use the mobile. Obviously, because we commented out the iPhone, it said just use the mobile because I don't know what kind of mobile that is, but it is a mobile phone. If we go back in, just for the sake of argument, uncomment our iPhone, go back in, say iPhone for debug. Wait for it. And there it is for the iPhone. So as you can see, we tried several different ways. We tried to break it, and we almost were successful, but that was just me deleting too fast on certain things. So now you can see how to use display modes for browser specific views for mobile applications with MVC.